Hi, everyone, and welcome to our additional media offering with the Maine Health Center for Tobacco Independence Training and Education team. This soundbite will last approximately 10 minutes, and I'm excited to have you join for the conversation today. For this quarter's soundbite, I'm going to give a brief overview of e-cigarettes and the risks associated with vaping, and then shift the focus to highlight 3 sources that speak to the potential benefits of e-cigarettes specifically for adult tobacco treatment. Before we begin, I want to provide the Maine Health Center for Tobacco Independence's position statement regarding e-cigarettes. Currently, the US FDA does not consider e-cigarettes an evidence-based treatment. Unlike first-line treatments with strong safety profiles, no treatment or prescription guidelines exist for e-cigarettes. Health risks associated with long-term use of e-cigarettes are unknown, based on their emergence into the market within the past decade. While there is some reason to believe that e-cigarettes may pose less harm than the use of combustible tobacco products, there is also growing evidence of potential harm. In short, more time is needed to determine the health effects of long-term use of e-cigarettes. With this being said, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and let's jump right in. First, we'll start with an overview of e-cigarettes. E-cigarettes are a battery-powered tobacco product and are known by many different names, such as e-cigs, ENDs, e-hookahs, mods, vape pens, and vapes. So today you might hear me use multiple different terms, such as e-cigarettes and ENDs. E-cigarettes produce an aerosol by heating a liquid that usually contains nicotine, flavorings, and other chemicals that help to make the aerosol. Users inhale the aerosol into their lungs, while bystanders can also breathe in this aerosol while the user exhales it into the air. A couple of the most recently popular e-cigarettes in the last 5 years are Juul and Puff Bars. Before we begin talking about the potential benefits of e-cigarettes for adults, I want to touch on the risks associated with the devices. Some of the health effects include nicotine addiction, toxicity to developing fetuses, harm to the adolescent and young adult brain, as well as the fact that they are not completely free of toxins and can still deliver harmful chemicals. E-cigarettes can also lead to vaping-related lung injuries, or also known as EVALI. The CDC explains that data has shown that vitamin E acetate, which is an additive in some THC-containing e-cigarettes, is strongly linked to the EVALI outbreak. Now that I've touched on some of the risks associated with using e-cigarettes, let's jump into the potential benefits. For the purpose of today's soundbite, I will be highlighting 3 sources that talk about the potential benefits associated with e-cigarettes for adults. The 3 sources are Balancing Consideration of the Risks and Benefits of E-Cigarettes, an article from the American Journal of Public Health dated on August 19th, 2021, a webinar that was released on June 6, 2021, titled E-Cigarettes and Smoking Cessation, an Update for Clinicians by Dr. Nancy Rigotti, founding director of the Tobacco Research and Treatment Center of Mass General Hospital. And lastly, The Appeal of Electronic Cigarettes in Smokers with Serious Mental Illness, an article dated in August 2016 by Dr. Sarah Pratt from the Department of Psychiatry Research at Dartmouth-Hitchcock. There are many different views when it comes to using electronic cigarettes as a tool for harm reduction. Many people believe that e-cigarettes offer an alternative way of smoking treatment. The perspective is taken that e-cigarettes are less harmful than combustible cigarettes when comparing the amount of toxic chemicals in each product. The article from the American Journal of Public Health, Balancing Consideration of Risks and Benefits of E-Cigarettes, states that there are 100 times more chemicals in combustible cigarette smoke than in e-cigarette aerosols, and potentially toxic chemicals are present in substantially higher amounts. This article explains that smokers who are unable to quit smoking with evidence-based treatment methods should be educated about the risks of vaping and smoking and vaping's potential to help them quit smoking. Individuals should understand that even though the long-term health consequences are not entirely understood, completely substituting vaping for smoking likely reduces health risks. This article also describes that the FDA should strictly regulate e-cigarette advertising and marketing, and that they should prohibit all marketing directed at youth and young adults. In Dr. Nancy Rigotti's webinar, E-Cigarettes and Smoking Cessation, an Update for Clinicians, Dr. Rigotti explains that while much remains unknown about the long-term effects of using e-cigarettes, there is evidence that they are a less harmful alternative to smoking combustible tobacco products for the population of adult smokers who are not pregnant. Dr. Vergati states that evidence shows that e-cigarettes offer potential harm reduction for adults who smoke, and that e-cigarettes have fewer and lower levels of toxic chemicals. Dr. Vergati explains that e-cigarettes were shown to be more effective than nicotine replacement therapy, or NRT, in quitting smoking in several studies. One study in the United Kingdom showed quit rates were doubled for e-cigarettes over NRT at 1 year, though 80% of those who quit were still using the e-cigarettes, while only 9% were still using NRT. The question remains, is the goal to get people to quit smoking combustible tobacco products or total abstinence? Dr. Vergati explains that more randomized control trials are needed to assess health risks in smoking cessation efficacy, especially using the new e-cigarette products. The bottom line of Dr. Vergati's recommendations to clinicians were: 1, we have a lot to learn about safety and efficacy. 2, FDA-approved medication should be recommended first before recommending the transition to e-cigarettes. 3, smokers should switch completely to e-cigarette use and completely stop smoking combustible cigarettes. 4, users should plan to quit e-cigarettes too. And 5, if they do switch to an e-cigarette, it should be an unaltered commercial e-cigarette product only. The last source I'm going to speak to today is the article titled "The Appeal of Electronic Cigarettes in Smokers with Serious Mental Illness" by Dr. Sarah Pratt. This article speaks to individuals with serious mental illness and how highly dependent many of these individuals can be on nicotine. Dr. Pratt explains up to 75% of people with serious mental illness, or SMI, smoke and are most highly dependent on nicotine, consuming more cigarettes per day than smokers without mental illness. It has been found that even with individuals that have SMI, when they use evidence-based treatments, relapses are common. E-cigarettes have been thought to be safer because they do not deliver tar or carbon monoxide like combustible cigarettes, though it hasn't been largely tested with individuals who have SMI. A study was conducted to look further into 21 chronic smokers who had SMI who attempted to quit but ended up relapsing. At the time of the study, they were not currently involved in treatment for quitting. The staff conducting the research study gave e-cigarettes with instructions to participants every week for a month. The results of the study proposed that individuals with SMI might find e-cigarettes as an alternative substitute for combustible cigarettes. They also found that giving participants e-cigarettes reduced the use of combustible cigarettes. Findings didn't show an increase in nicotine dependence. Ultimately, the researchers concluded that more randomized studies are needed to better evaluate e-cigarette appeal and harmfulness. So now that we've spent time reviewing all of the various information, what do we do with it? The Center for Disease Control states that e-cigarettes do have the potential to benefit adult smokers who are not pregnant if used as a complete substitute for regular cigarettes and other smoked tobacco products. E-cigarettes are not safe for youth, young adults, and pregnant women, as well as adults who do not currently use tobacco products. The Truth Initiative states, the leading reason for e-cigarette use among adults 25 and older was the belief that e-cigarettes may be less harmful than combustible cigarettes, both to themselves and others, with 79% selecting this as a reason. Additionally, 7 in 10 adults indicated that they believed e-cigarettes could facilitate quitting. While e-cigarettes have the potential to benefit some people and harm others, scientists still have a lot to learn about whether e-cigarettes are effective for quitting smoking. Additional research is still needed to help better understand the long-term health effects of vaping. I want to thank everyone for tuning in and listening to this soundbite about the risks and benefits of e-cigarettes for adults. I'd love for you to think about some of the takeaways from today's conversation, and if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to our training email at tobacco@mainhealth.org. I hope you enjoyed this soundbite today, and if so, make sure to visit our website at www.ctimaine.org for the recording and to stay up to date on future episodes. Thank you, everyone.